Do you know the story of Dennis Wolfberg and the blind piano player in Philadelphia?
No.
You know what? I haven't told this story in decades, and there used to be people that actually remembered this set. The Comedy Works in Philadelphia was on the third floor. It was a long room, and the second floor was an Indian restaurant. If you had to go to the bathroom, you literally went downstairs and walked to the restaurant in front of the belly dancer. I'm not making up, in front of the belly dancer, which I just thought and it was a great club. It was fantastic. Bob Saget cut his teeth there. And so the stage, it was a stage that had a fake wall. And the fake wall had a door in it. So the comics would come, I guess it must have been ugly behind there, I forget. But so you came out through the door and you performed and went back out through the door. And there was a piano player that would open the show. And sometimes, I don't think he was a comic, maybe play a little, but he was blind. And Dennis Wolfberg always insisted on singing that stupid song, Bye Bye Miss American Pie. So he has this poor piano player play this 8-minute song with him, and they get done with the song, and there's huge applause. So Wolfberg is in his glory, and he's going to help the piano player because he's blind. And he gets up, and he's listening to the applause, and he's just got done with his set, and he's all wound up, and completely forgets that the guy is blind. And he walks out the door, and the blind guy walks right into the wall. Oh my God.
Man.
Oh my God. I would give it. There were 400 people there. There has to be somebody who remembers that night.
I'm going to ask Jackie now about a piece of comedy history. And this is the funniest Rodney Dangerfield joke I've ever heard. I think he ever did on The Tonight Show. You were responsible for it. And Rodney actually blasted Johnny Carson back in his chair, laughing so hard. And I think the joke I'm talking about. And it came from you, right?
The classic thing is there are very few new jokes. Just about anything you could say has been said one way or another, if you're talking about burps, farts, sex,
right,
anything like that. And a friend of mine was in Peru. It's an absolutely true story. Was in Peru selling coke, buying coke. He's not with us anymore. Jackie Radcliffe, JR. He's just a piece of work. You know how often they say they broke the mold? Well, they really broke the mold. And I'm sure you met this guy along the way, and he was out of his mind. And he called me up, and at the time I was living with my girlfriend Lois at my grandmother's. My grandmother had passed away, and we're going to get to her.
Okay, your grandmother.
And so we're at my grandmother's house, and the phone rings like at 3 o'clock in the morning, and almost nobody had the number. And this guy, Chief, they called me Chief with no respect at all. It was it was a tongue-in-cheek Chief. Chief, wake up! You got to hear this. Now I'm doing Rodney. This is the funniest thing, guy. The funniest goddamn joke. You got to hear blah blah blah. And I could swear that he knew I had most likely gone to bed very drunk and was probably still a little drunk. So he kept me on the phone long enough that I'd be sure to remember what he said. And he said, this guy Bob, Tennessee Bob, he's so funny, he's down there, we're all so high and so crazy. Tennessee Bob told me about this girl called the Tennessee Two-Bagger. She's so ugly, not only got to put a bag over her head, you got to put a bag over your own head in case her bag rips. And I fell off my bed, and I laughed, and I howled. And at the time, Richie Miniveri, had told me he was friends with Rodney, and I'm typing up all my jokes. So that was one of the jokes I put into the 6 pages I sent him, and then Rodney called me at that same house, and nobody called. Nobody had. All her friends were dead. Nobody had that number, but I had put it in the jokes with Rodney, and he called me up at my grandmother's house, and he said, it was the funniest joke. Years later, he said it was the funniest joke I ever had.
Oh, absolutely. A little inside comedy here. Jackie's original joke, it was a Tennessee two-bagger, and I remember distinctly Rodney changed that to she was a two-bag number, and even repeated it. John, what?
He took out the Tennessee.
A two-bag number, and he blasted Johnny.
He never said number. He said two-bagger, but he took out the Tennessee.
I'm gonna go back and check the tape.
Oh, okay.
Because this is a moment that I remember this joke.
Yeah, and it's funny because
so funny. She
I
was
was
a
working in the
two-bag number.
studio, and the guy, some of the Alessi brothers, a famous group on Long Island, they used to be Barnaby By, and they used to tour the country. And they said that when they heard that that was my claim to fame with Rodney. He said, "Oh, that's an old Southern thing that has been around forever." All these jokes have been around forever, but when you take the right joke and give it to someone, like in My Favorite Year, Peter O'Toole staggers into the ladies' room. And he's taking it out, and the woman goes, "This is for ladies." And he says, "So is this," which is the oldest joke, but in the right place, it's, and placed in Rodney's hands. So there's so many jokes that have been around forever.
Now, you talk about a national historical site. I think about something that happened to me on a tour of Gettysburg National Park, and I was so struck by it. I used it as the title of a book, A Humorous Look at American History, touring Gettysburg National Park with a small group and a tour guide. And a woman actually, I remember she raised her hand for some reason to ask the tour guide a question. How come they always had the battles in national parks? And it was a serious question.
I gave you credit for coining that for your book.
That is, yes.
But
absolutely. How come they always had the battles in national parks? And
that's who's buried in Grant's tomb.
Oh, you can't imagine. And I always say that I was so struck by that logic that later on I went up to her in the parking lot and I said, I like how you think. You ever wonder, how come meteors always land in craters?
That's
very
good.
interesting.
Friends and fans, I'm Jackie Martling. This is Standup Memories. I'm introducing the show because today the interviewer is going to be none other than Peter Bales. I'm looking at these two guys and I can't help but think of the joke of the two old guys at the bar. And the one guy says, "Look at those guys over there. That's what we're going to look like in 10 years. And the other guy says, "You asshole, that's a mirror." But these three old men here are dear, dear friends from forever ago. And we figured, we have not had a guest yet. My first guest on this show was Peter Bales, and we hit it off so well that we yacked for the next 20 shows. We're finally sick of each other, so we called the dearest friend that we both have. I was all full of coffee and ready to go. And I sat there, I'm out of gas, so I'm handing the ball to Peter Bales. But he'll introduce our guest. And this is our first guest, which is very, very exciting. And we told them to just roll the cameras till we run out of gas. We'll stop every once in a while so us old people can go and pee or whatever else we have to do. And I'm really excited about this show. And usually I'm not. I mean, how excited would you be about sitting down and getting to talk to Peter Bales? I mean, do the math.
Well, thank you, Jackie. You're delightful.
It's not your turn to talk. So without further ado, I do love this, and I haven't told Peter this yet, but I was at a family wedding all weekend, and everybody watches this. One guy watches this show and really enjoys it, which is enough to keep anybody going. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Peter Bales.
Jackie, thank you. That means a lot to me. This is going to be so much fun. Jackie and I have been yapping away on Stand-Up Memories, and now we've got our first guest, and we both wanted this guy because this is Danny McKenna, the legendary manager of the legendary comedy club in West Orange, New Jersey, that in the 80s and 90s had everybody, and everything happened.
I'm at the point where I hate that word. Because every time somebody says legendary, you're a legend, all I hear is old.
Yeah.
There's no specialness to it. It's like, as opposed to you're an old man, You're a legend.
Well,
At
we're
the same
here
time,
with
I got
the-
no ego about myself, so the word
Well,
legendary.
who cares? Right.
Danny's legendary, Jackie, frankly, you're old.
I'll take it.
And Danny saw everything behind the scenes and on stage, and we want to have fun. Jackie was there forever. I was there forever. We saw it, but Danny really saw it. Danny, I was there sometimes. You were always there when things went wrong.
Oh, yeah?
I was at a show there opening for a soap opera star where it can't go more wrong than this. Walt Willey was from what show? What was that? General Hospital?
General Hospital, or just
he-
one of those soap opera
I
shows.
remember when that first happened, when the soap opera star
Yes.
Yeah.
infiltration. I'm like,
Still going.
talk about
Still
a
going.
prop comic.
Linda Rowe is still doing
Oh
it.
yeah,
Linda
no,
Rowe
I'm probably
books
doing
these.
better than any of us.
And they will get a 90% female audience, and the 400-seat room was packed, and I was enjoying myself. I was the opening act. I went up and I had a great time, and I got a note from Danny to keep going. No explanation, just keep going. And I kept going, and I was up over 30, and then I got a note, take a break, and say we'll be coming back in a few minutes with Walt. Willie, take a break. And you never take a break at a comedy show because it breaks all the momentum.
You got my interest peaked here.
Okay,
Oh, this
take a
is
break.
Unbelievable.
And Danny can pick it up here because I got off stage and I said to Danny, "What's going on?" And you said,
I'm in
Let me
agreement.
take my guesses before you say. Either he was in the back room with a girl and her husband caught them, or
No.
he didn't show up, or he was passed out drunk, or he was lost.
No, he was still filming at General Hospital in the city, and they weren't letting him off the set until they kept rolling, until they ended.
Wow.
Okay? And Roger Paul was his manager back then, and he's sitting in the green room, said he's not coming. And I'm looking at Roger Paul going, "You're a dead man. Do you understand me? You're a dead man." I go, I didn't say it to him, but my mind was going, I don't care if you got to get a helicopter into New York and into West Orange.
Get that
you're,
man
You're
here.
bringing him here. I got 400
Oh,
women that
I
just
got-
paid a lot of money and had dinner. You know, you better get him here.
remember.
And of all people, Mark was calm. Mark was going.
Mark,
he's
the
not,
owner,
he's
was
not
calm.
coming.
Danny was pretty freaked.
So I piped the system into Walt Willey on the telephone, telling the woman out in the audience that he's sorry, he's not going to be there. But they're laughing, thinking it's comedy. He's going to pop out.
Right,
in
he's
a
going to
second.
pop. Oh.
And I got on the phone with him. I go, they're not believing you. You're going to have to tell them again. And next thing you know, they turn, and then we go to
Yeah, Danny says, you got to go back up there.
Ah!
and tell them.
Tell them because they think it's this phone call is a joke and that he's backstage. So I had to go up and say, no, this is real. He's really not going to be here. You're going to get your money back. But
Did you say the good news is I'm not going to do my 30 minutes again?
actually,
Show was over, man. That was it.
I'll never forget this. As long as I live, I gave them the bad news, and there was lots of oohing, and it was very uncomfortable. I got off the stage, started walking toward the back, and a 300-pound angry woman grabbed me by the lapels, pulled me into her face, and said, "I am going to beat the shit out of you."
Yeah.
You guys were brilliant with Jackie Mason. You used to.
Oh, well, tell-
You would open a Jackie Mason show on a Tuesday. That would sell out. Then you'd go to Wednesday and go all the way.
He would do Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays, okay? But here's talk about taping a show. He used to want me to tape a show also, okay? And listen to what he did to me one night, and I wanted to kill this guy.
It's a big club.
I'm taping every single show, and when he walks past me in the hallway after the show's over, I take the tape on. I go, "You want the tape?" He goes, "No, I don't want it." Now this happened.
This is audio tape.
Yeah, it was on a cassette. I used to tape it every show that he did. So one night, the machines broke down. Now, mind you, I've taped 10 or 15 shows at this point and went to hand him the tape every single time, and he goes, "No, thanks,
But
I
this
don't
is
want
for
it."
his own perusal, not
Correct.
not for any.
No. And I had to go to hand him the tape, and he goes, "No, I don't want it." So all of a sudden, he's there one night, and my tape deck broke down. And he comes to me 10 minutes before the show, and he says, "You taping the show?" And I said, "No, Jackie, my tape deck broke down. I can't tape tonight." "What do you mean you can't tape tonight?" He says, "My machines broke down." And he walks back into the green room, and he takes a seat, and he goes, "I'm not going on. I'm not going on." He's serious. There's 400 people in the room. It's 10 minutes away from showtime. And he never used an opener. He just went up there cold all the time.
Right.
And he's going, "I'm not going on." This guy going, And he's dead serious. He is not going on because I can't record the show.
So what happened?
I had to take a bouncer who lived close by, and a bouncer ran down to his house and got one of those little handheld recorders.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I take the whole album.
But is that nerve coming from that guy, or
you know.
what? I mean, and prior to this, I never had a bad rapport with him whatsoever.
There's
You know?
no story I could hear about him that I wouldn't believe. You know, he saw that I was making an album at the East Side, and he said he wanted. And I said, hey, we could do an album for you, and we did a whole album with him. And I recorded an album and cut it up and produced it and everything, and then whoever was putting in the money, whatever happened, it just didn't go anywhere. I mean, I still have it. It was called Election 80, and it was about Carter, recorded at the East Side, which is, Jackie Mason's stuff was always his act, with whatever flavor inserted. You know, either his one stand-up, his one-man Broadway show, or Election 80 or whatever, and always funny and always great. But he was so odd, you know, and he was swarthy.
Well, listen to what he did to me one night. There was a problem where his manager definitely messed up, okay? And she's trying to blame me. And this is going on in front of Jackie.
Like the date or the money?
No, it was a tape that I was supposed to have playing during seating, okay? And she's telling me that she told me about the tape she wanted to play. And I says, no, you didn't. You asked me to send you a copy of the tape, which I sent you a copy of the tape. Now Jackie's listening to all this, and she's trying to save her own ass.
Right.
And putting me in the bad spot.
Yeah.
And I don't like the fact that she's lying, because she's lying to save her own ass. And I said, no, it didn't happen that way, right? Now this is going on, and the show's starting soon. I go, you know something, McKenna, just be the fall guy. Just be the fall guy.
My fault.
So I said to the manager, I went, you're right, it's my fault. And Mason looks at me and goes, so now you're telling me you're a liar? I was like, you can't win. I got to win.
He was joking, or was he serious?
No, he was serious.
He was serious.
He was serious. Now you're telling me you're a liar?
So much to talk about. This guy has seen everything on Long Island since when? When did you really start checking out the scene, both music and comedy?
I first started writing for my college paper at Nassau Community College in 1977, so I covered national acts that came through the school there. And I became
Was that pre-Good Times magazine?
Oh, yeah.
They hadn't even started yet.
Oh, no, well, actually, that was before I was at Good Times. Good Times started in 1969. It's actually 1 month younger than the Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone started March 1st, 1969. They started April 1st.
It was actually that purple mimeograph that smelled like in the back of the church room.
The dittos.
Dittos. Who could ever
Would
pull
I
that
be
name?
wrong to say Good Times was overpriced? It was
At free?
actually it was a free publication, but a very successful one for a long time.
Still
right?
going. It
Yeah.
just went by its 53rd anniversary.
That's
so
terrific. That's terrific.
that makes them, other than Rolling Stone, the longest entertainment magazine in the country.
Oh, that's great. Now, you wrote for them for a long time.
14 years in 2 different shifts, yeah.
And you covered comedy and music?
Comedy, music, theater, basic sports, basically anything that went into lifestyle, entertainment, arts. Yeah, I covered it at some point or another.
I am hoping that you didn't write it. I'm pretty sure you didn't write it. But it might have been the first review I got. We did a thing at my father's place, which was the name of a club on Long Island called Long Island Ha Ha. And I played the guitar and sang and told some jokes. And me and John DeBella were the host, John DeBella from
LIR later on,
at
right?
the time.
Yep.
And
Hot
my
Strike,
review-
too.
My review, and I'm pretty sure in Good Times, was usually obnoxious, sometimes amusing. Danny Martling, in my local post office. I was there every day, like I've always been. And that guy called me sometimes until the day he retired. Hey, sometimes. I never shook that. But I hope you didn't write it, Glenn.
No, it wasn't, but I respect their viewpoint.
And you know what? Every time I'm up there, I'm like, he had a point.
The head of a terrific company called the Conversation Company Limited.
How about this? Right off the bat, to snag them, let him just list his clientele. Go ahead.
We were talking last time about Robert Klein, but that's only one. He's got an incredible roster.
Well, I've been working as manager for Ray Romano for almost 40 years. Brian Regan, Gary Valentine, Tom Green, Frank Caliendo. There's a lot of people.
Great people.
And many people over the years.
Yes.
One of your former clients, John Ferrantino, told me about you, something that I think is really, really cool. And it says to me
I would
that,
have never guessed it was that big.
I know, no, it
Yeah.
says to me, you followed the right career path. He told me that one time he saw you in your office on 4 phones at the same time, trying to keep 4 conversations straight in your head and going crazy with these phones. And in the middle of it, you looked him up and said, I love this.
Well,
And
I
that is-
absolutely
there was
believe that.
one little part of that story that you didn't get.
Okay.
Right. The reason I was
In the
on-
middle of it, you were trying to hang up on Ferrantino.
the reason I was on 4 phones, this way I didn't have to talk to John.
We got to get Rory to talk about Long Island's own, a guy we knew from your one-nighter on a Wednesday night that was a tough crowd, you know, and that's Ray Romano. He's
The greatest.
the greatest.
The greatest. First of all, before anything, he's a great guy. Ray and I have been through
He
everything.
says 2 words,
Yeah.
and you can sense
Yeah.
that he's a great guy. I think.
He's very genuine, and he's really funny. And if you go to dinner with him, he's laughing at your jokes. He's not holding court. He's the most regular guy. He's married. He's got 4 kids. His family's very close. They fight in like every like he's as normal as could be. He's the best comedian of my career. Who with material. He can read a script. I remember when I started out and I was young and I wanted to make my point and whatever. And then you get older and you realize he's really good. He gets a visceral sense of the material and you don't argue with him because he's always right.
Yeah.
And the reason Ray has always done really good projects because they speak to him. He's another one who doesn't make a decision based on the business, ever. Everything is at the crux of whether the material itself is great material.
It fits.
And that's why everything he does is really good, really good. And
Everybody likes him. I
He's the
didn't-
best guy. He's the greatest guy.
I don't know a single comedian who doesn't have great things to say
Yeah.
about him, and that's a lot of comedians.
That is very weird. In all these years, I don't think I've ever heard a negative word about the guy.
No, and it's
And
funny. Think about this, because I agree with you. The press, right? And it can be kind of tough. It's 40 years almost. There's never been a bad thing about the guy, because he's a gentleman and he's not a BS artist, and he's just a good guy.
He's genuine because his show, Everybody Loves Raymond, came out of his act. He created that.
Well, the interesting thing was, I was the executive producer of Everybody Loves Raymond, and so I got to see everything firsthand. And the good thing about his stand-up was he talked about real things in his life, and it translated to the audience because they knew it happens to them too.
Yeah.
Which somehow is a great equalizer. He's not lecturing or talking down to you. He was one of them. And when he would talk about his mother, he's talking about their mother. Because you start to realize that the common denomination between everybody is that everyone is the same. Everyone's the same, the sauce is different.
You are no spring chicken. Now Jackie and I make you look like a spring chicken. But you've been watching comedy for now a long time.
Long time, yeah.
And what changes have you seen from when you were young and taking history with a dashing young professor at Portledge School?
I don't know how smart a question this is when he's sitting here with 2 guys that haven't changed their acts in 30 years.
Yeah, Jackie, but I'm messing with my order.
Oh, okay.
You know,
I don't remember him starting with that. Go ahead.
but what kind of changes? And changes for the better or changes for the worse? What do you think?
Well, yes and no in both ways. I've seen, I grew up basically watching comedy. The way I started getting into comedy is I was a kid living in Douglaston, Queens, which is right on the border in Nassau County and the Queens, as you know. And my, you're living in the suburban life where with my parents, and I go to school, and my only like windows to the outside world were The Tonight Show,
Yep.
David Letterman, SNL, and Rolling Stone magazine. Those were like my windows to the world.
So we're children of the 50s. Were you a kid of the 80s?
Well, I
or
was
the
born in
70s?
1970.
So you're 12, 13, 14?
Yeah, but this is in the 70s. This is in the 70s. And what I used to do is, it was an interesting thing. So my parents would have they had a high bed, like a really high bed, like it was really high up. And as a kid, they used to watch The Tonight Show all the time. And I used to crawl underneath their bed and watch The Tonight Show.
And they wouldn't know you were
And they
there.
wouldn't even know I was there.
Wow.
And the good news is I knew nothing would ever be going on with my parents, because if they closed the door, then I'm shut out. So and then I knew I was safe. So if the door was open, I knew I was safe. So I went underneath and I would watch The Tonight Show, and I would always follow the TV guide to see what stand-ups were coming on. Like if Rodney was coming or if Rickles was coming. It was like a big night.
And he remembers the instant he entered into puberty when Charo went coochie coochie. You got to watch our podcast, Standup Memories, because not only do Jackie and I share memories that go decades
And we
back,
get so funny.
we are funny.
Really
We
funny.
also have what's going on now on our show, current events, if you will, two terrific up-and-coming stand-up.
Well, what happened is we had two younger performers.
They are
that have
slightly younger.
Been at this for a year or so. And then after we did a show with each of them, they started yakking very naturally. And they're very entertaining, and they're very good-looking young people. And it sounded like it was going to get interesting. So before Peter got to open his mouth and spoil it, we thought we would run the camera. So we're going to let them talk to each other. And if anything interesting happens and Peter doesn't interrupt them, we'll pick out that snippet. Now, if this is going to be edited, here's a snippet. Okay, now talk.
Well, I'm going to interrupt.
Feels like acting.
See?
Hey, we're back with Courtney Otera and Joe Cravella, two of the new up-and-coming comedians out there.
And they have shared a story.
Yes.
Yes. So we had a show in Massachusetts this summer. Joe was actually on the show. I just happened to be in Massachusetts because my boyfriend lives there. And so I got a guest spot. And basically, the whole audience was just my boyfriend's friends because, we're
Now, this isn't the
Massachusetts,
show
we
with the
don't
four
know.
people.
No, it is
This
the show with
is
the four
so
people.
it was 2 days. There was
Yeah.
one Friday and there was one Saturday. Friday was a good amount of people.
Like
Saturday, yeah, no, I'm not even kidding. 11, and then Saturday was the one with like 3 or 4 people. So
Oh yeah, I was there
Yeah.
for the Saturday one.
Yeah, the Saturday was the
I was
one
at a
that-
lake house.
we had walked out a regular at the bar because he wouldn't stop talking during people's sets. It was just anarchy. It was one of the worst.
So you were there, and you worked with them. Now, if she does a guest spot, does she go on first? Does she go on last?
I think she went up like. Did you go up after the host?
I think
or-
it was like third or something. I think
Yeah.
the order wasn't anything particular.
So
but,
how many laughs did you get?
The night I was there, I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't terrible. He got the bad night after me where there were 4 people, and I got to go to a lake house. So I don't know.
Yeah, she won that night. I feel like even the Friday one was still a little kind of
It
rough
was,
for me.
yeah, it was still small, but it wasn't.
The laughter
But
just
there's
died
nothing like
that.
a shared experience, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great,
Do you laugh at it now? It was a tough show. You drove
Oh,
from
it's-
Long Island to Boston for 11 people one night, 4 people the other night. Was it worth it?
Every time one of our friends bring up something that we don't want to do, I go I'd rather drive to the Cantab Lounge.
It becomes a
And
punchline.
headline, yeah. I remember on the way back, one of the guys, Fat Jay, that we work with, we were like, "Hey Jay, do you want to do this?" He's like, "I'd rather do a 40-minute set on a Saturday night at the Cantab Lounge than ever do that again."
It's the horror stories.
And then she shows up and gets laughs. Who
Yeah.
needs that? Who needs
What's
that?
funny is they didn't even know that there was a comedy show. We got there and the lady made me put on a wristband. I was like, I'm on the show. And she
A
was like,
wristband to prove that you were in the show, or prove that you
yeah,
weren't
it
in
was the weirdest thing ever. And I had explained,
Wait,
I
a
was like,
wristband so you could drink.
No, I don't even know what it was. I had explained to her. I was like, there's a comedy show tonight, and I'm one of the people that are on it. She was like, put on this wristband, and then that was that, and just giving us a hard time.
Yeah, and like I didn't have an ID because like I'm only 20, and I had to explain to her that like, hey, no, like I'm working here tonight, and she's like, oh, okay, and like she met the producer and everything was good, but it was just like, yeah, like she had no clue.
The second
That's always a heartbreaker when you have to convince them that you're one
a
of the acts.
comedian,
You
yeah.
know, like.
Yeah.
I just my confidence level shot down. And the second night we were barking for tickets outside. Because the area in Massachusetts almost reminded us of the city. There was like a lot of foot traffic, so we were
So
just
you
out
could
there.
snag a few people going by.
Yeah, we were just begging them. We're
Yeah.
like, tickets, comedy. They just kept walking, nothing, and then
See, I've never done the barking in front of a show.
Did I?
That's got to be tough.
I had a band in college, and we had this friend who got this bright idea. He was going to book us a town a little away. Went to Michigan State, so it was outside East Lansing, another town. And he advertised it, and he was going to have our band, and he's going to make all this money. And there wasn't one person in the place, and this guy opened all the doors and had us point our amps towards the door, hoping that somebody outside would hear the
Oh my
music,
God.
which is the same same
it
thing.
really was.
You know, Bobby Collins said, you know, whatever it takes to get him in the
Oh, I
tent.
love him.
Ah,
Whatever it takes to get him in a tent. We're all just carnival folks. That's
all right. You have a positive attitude about stand-up, both of you, right?
We do.
All right. You've been doing
Now, we're gonna see to it. We're gonna get them booked together.
it. Right.
Yeah. Well,
We
we
want
do
that.
a lot of shows together already. Like Joe's one of the first people that I met in comedy, and also one of the first people that's like around my age, because I feel like everyone's older, and there are not a lot of girls either. Not a lot of young girls.
But there are more and more female
Yeah,
comics
it's getting so much
every year,
better.
I would say.
Yeah.
I think more than ever, which is really good.
Yeah, my like goal is to just really inspire girls to get into this more, because I feel like they hesitate a little bit, but you know. I just wanna-
100%. You're right. Absolutely. Now, you guys are really psyched for your comedy careers that are in front of you. It's where are you going to be? I want an answer from both of you. Joe Cravella and Courtney Otero, where are you going to be in 5 years?
On this podcast again. 5 years.
Now you just got so many points with me. That was a callback. That was right on. Just perfect. Just perfect.
Yeah.
And probably true.
I'd probably just say like my goal in comedy is to be a house comic at one of the comedy clubs. So hopefully in 5 years I'll be at one of the clubs and hopefully doing better gigs than Boston, one with 4 people inside. So
You don't have to drive to Boston to just work for 4 people.
that's what we told the producer. We said we could have done that in Long Island.
It was a learning experience.
It was.
Yeah, to never accept that gig again.
Where are you going to be, Courtney, in 5 years?
In 5 years, I will be at 30 Rock.
Oh.
She'll be an alumni.
She'll be in the front lobby going, "Be careful, that's wet."
Oh my God.
No, I'm joking. What are you going to be doing at 30 Rock?
I'm going to be acting in comedy sketches
All right.
at SNL.
That's great.
Good for you. And
Thank you.
you guys are terrific. Thank you for bringing some youth onto our podcast.
We have been stuck with each other for over 40 years, working together. I suggest that we drag them onto one of our shows.
That'd be fun.
We can pay them out of your.
I don't know if they'll work for that small amount.
Wow, you do.
We work for free sometimes. Like, it's just,
I always work for
yeah,
free.
I do it because I love it. I don't do it for the money.
Okay, well then you just made more points with Jackie.
Yeah.
So I wish you the best. Thank you for coming on Stand-Up Memories, our podcast.
We are going to be doing
Oh,
a
they
big charity show
Ooh.
Right.
for this very good friend of mine. His daughter runs a farm at Planting Fields, and the workers there are all people on all the different spectrum of autism, and it's a magnificent farm, and it's a really great charity, and we're going to do a show, and they're on the show if
The
they have
decision
time and they
has
want to
been
do
made.
it.
It's a nice charity for
He
development.
keeps saying he's going to get this guy to do the show. There's never any proof. That's one thing. That's another thing you learn. Somebody tells you they're going to do something in the comedy business or in the show business world. There's every chance that that's the last you're going to ever hear of it.
True.
But you can't count on it. because sometimes things come through.
But Jackie just said it on camera.
On air.
Yeah,
It's a nice charity for developmentally disabled adults that work a farm.
but we've got so many
awesome.
shows in the can that we're going to do 5 charity shows before they see this stupid thing.
We're going to do it. We're going to do it. And you guys, thank you so much for coming on with us.
Thank you so much for having
Appreciate
us.
it.
And we appreciate you. We really do.
Thank you.
All right.
She is so much better looking than you. You have no idea.
Oh my God.
You're not even
See
allowed
you
to
next
say.
time
I'm
on-
not even allowed to say that, right?
No, you can.
You
say
can't
that.
say
No,
that?
you-
Oh my God.
We got this far, Jackie.
I thought you're not allowed to say you're
No,
attractive.
no, you're not. You never say it to me.
I just did.
Check these two young up-and-coming comedians, Joe Cravella and Courtney Otero, on season 3.
Season 3?
Season 3 of
Have
Stand
we
Up
done
Memories.
3 seasons?
3 seasons.
3 seasons. They're going to be on the 3rd season.
They are.
Along with,
Lots of other great guests,
such as,
Joey Cola, Chris Monty, Carrie Carabas.
you
Wow.
are in some good and Peter Bales. Don't forget
And
Peter Bales.
Jackie,
A lot of good
the
people.
joke man Marlin.
Yes. And Beetlejuice.
Thank you, Courtney Otero and Joe Cravella. This has been Stand Up Memories. What a great season 3 we have coming up. Jackie will be there.
I will be here.
And I'm Peter Bales. I'll be there. See you next
You
time.
really, really have to do something about your hair. It is so wild. It's wild. You got to get it cut, or maybe even color it black or something. You're going to join this universe. You know? Have
See you.
any plans?
Bye. We're out of here.
Bye.
Hey, a new episode of Stand Up Memories every Wednesday.
How exciting is that?
Starring me, Peter Bales, and right here, Jackie the Joke Man Martling.
Please follow us on social media. Search it out. What is it? Me Space?
MySpace,
Your Space?
TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
Doodah, doodah.